Hello, everybody. My name is Anna Bakhvalova, and I'm a co-founder of Career Pathway Institute. And our mission is igniting ambitious immigrants to overcome career gaps and redefine professional identity through volunteering, learning, and community. And here at CPI, we talk a lot about how to restart your career in the United States. But today, we want to explore another very important topic: wealth building. We know that many immigrants face unique financial challenges when they come to a new country, but also bringing incredible resilience and motivation. That's why I'm so excited about today's conversation. And we've invited someone truly special. She's a personal financial expert, the founder and CEO of Save My Sense, and the author of Wealth and Minds is a Mindset. She saved for retirement by the age of 31, and her insights have been featured in Business Insider, CNBC, Forbes, Fox Business, United States Today, Time, and Next Advisor and NASDAQ. Please welcome Shan to the webinar. Hi, Shan. Great to see you.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited about our conversation. So let's start to discuss this very important topic. So your journey from an immigrant background to achieving financial independence by 31 is incredibly inspiring. So what were some of the pivotal financial lessons you learned early on what you believe are crucial for immigrants starting their journey in the United States?
Yes, so I landed in the United States when I was 10, and I really credit my parents for teaching me two things about personal finance. One, there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to working really hard. And two, frugality is key to building your wealth. My parents, both immigrants, English is not their first language, worked day and night to provide for all of us. And they told me, look, immigrants, you just start with more things that are harder. So you just got to work harder. And I agree with that. And then second, we were frugal most of my childhood. I didn't even know that my parents were saving so much money. But I saw later on as an adult that by being frugal and spending as little as we could allowed my parents to build wealth on their own terms.
This is super important. And I think your parents give you a really example, and this is a really great advice. So you shouldn't be ashamed when you're starting your
Yeah.
journey. And this is a really powerful perspective. And let's talk a bit about the culture. So, in your experience, how do culture beliefs affect financial decisions among the immigrants?
Yes, there are major differences in culture between your country of origin and then the United States. And not all pieces of our culture are worth honoring. So I'll just give an example, actually using the United States culture as the example. In the US, people don't like to talk about money. I found that very strange because where I came from, People's Republic of China, we love to gossip about money. Money's everybody's business. And I actually found that that part of the Chinese culture was really great because it allowed me to think about money early. The downside of the Chinese culture, understandably, is oh, don't stick your neck out. Don't ask the hard questions. Keep your head down. You will do well by merit alone. And I found that that is not necessarily the case in the US, where the way that you market yourself and the way that you stand up for yourself actually leads to success. And so I think it's valid to question the pros and cons of each culture that you are exposed to and use primarily the pros to, improve your career and your money.
Wow, this is super interesting insight. And I would say, yes, in the United States, it's very intimate and very private information, and everybody need money, but it's like forbidden topic. And it's really interesting, the culture differences, and it's really resonate. And this is something many of our community members face also. Another challenge, the responsibility of supporting family back home, and while trying to build a life here from scratch. And The real challenge sounds like how can immigrants balance between these responsibilities without compromising their financial goals?
This is the hardest part of being an immigrant is that you're not just working for you. You're working with your entire family on your back. My father has three younger siblings and also at that time his two elderly parents, and they were all looking to him for help. That's kind of impossible for one person to shoulder so many people. But I know that my father was actively helping his family back in China. And here's the way that I coach many people who are immigrants to think about it. One, make sure your own basic needs and retirement needs are met, especially if you plan to stay in the United States. If you want to stay in the United States until you're very old, it's going to cost a lot of money. So you need to, at the very minimum, cover yourself. And then any extra that you're able to have, that's what you send back to your family. And maybe it might take a couple of years before you can work up to the extra. Don't let your family back home guilt you while you're trying to work your way up because they have to be patient too. It takes time to build your income. So don't let that guilt make you feel like you're doing something wrong.
Wow, this is such a great advice. And it reminds me when we go on a flight and the service always remind you that oxygen mask first should wear adults should wear the oxygen mask first because if you do not something to breathe, you can't help others.
Yes.
Very important to take care of yourself first. Wow, it's a really important to remind yourself because usually immigrants feel guilty that I have to take responsibility. Yeah, this is a really great advice. And let's talk about the difference and connection between mental health and financial well-being. So
Yes.
how can immigrants manage the emotional aspects of money, especially when they're dealing with the past traumas or financial anxieties or different habits or different financial education?
So the reason why you feel emotional around money has everything to do with your current situation and the state of your mental health. So let me explain. When I first started writing about personal finance, I came from a very non-emotional background because I was like, it's math. You make this much, spend less than that, and the difference is your savings. How can it get any simpler than this? But then when I started working with people who struggled with that concept, I realized it's not the rational side of their brain that's working. So our brains have three systems. We have our survival system, the reptile system. We have our emotional system, the limbic system. And then we have our executive function, the prefrontal cortex. When you are under duress, when you're stressed out, when work is not going well, when you feel lonely, which is very common among immigrants, and if any circumstance around you makes you feel like you're scared for the future, your brain actually pulls oxygen and blood flow away from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that has to think, and it pulls it into your emotional and survival systems. So it's actually explained by science. Why are you feeling emotional? It's because you're stressed out. It's because you might have symptoms of depression and anxiety. So actually, the way to become less emotional about money is to address your mental health, your anxiety, your depression. When those things get better, your ability to be less emotional about money also gets better.
Wow, this is so true. And I think especially women, when they immigrate to another country, they feel so stressed and kind of depression. So that's why they want to cover and get some rewards. So that's why they are more tending to the impulsive purchase.
Yes.
This is really interesting. Okay, and let's make it practical now. So, what steps would you recommend for immigrants who are just starting out and want to begin building wealth in a meaningful way?
Yes. So at the very minimum, you will need to open bank accounts, savings accounts in the US. So you have to establish residency, get your utility bill, get a form of ID, make sure that you can apply for these accounts because you can't operate without financial accounts in the US. The first thing that I want you to focus on is building an emergency fund. Like, don't even worry about debt right now, because I know a lot of people come to the United States with debt. Don't worry about whether you're making enough. Like, just do what you can to save an emergency fund, bare minimum 1 month of expenses, because that gives you a sense of stability. Like, wow, okay, I have some savings.
It,
I'm not, going to go into debt right away if something were to happen or if my car got hit or whatnot. And it can be very daunting because there's always going to be so many things happening at once. You're establishing a new life, you're trying to find friends, you're trying to, grasp the language and work and all of that. I get it. That's why I said just make your goals very, very simple. I'm going to go for that emergency fund. Then after the emergency fund, depending on how much debt you have or not and the interest rate, then I guide people. And there's a chapter in my book about this, about whether we focus more on the debt or do we focus on investing, because it can go either way. But start simple and don't give yourself the pressure that you have to do it perfect, because nobody is perfect, right? Just like be very proud of every amount of progress that you can make because you are doing something that's really hard.
yes, this is super cool. And building your well-being, financial well-being, it's like building the house. You're starting from foundation. And you have to do it step by step. You can expect to see the whole building, the whole house just in one moment. This is
Yes.
very important and appreciate yourself.
A good foundation also prevents the house from collapsing too.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so um, what are some resources or tools you suggest that immigrants can use to learn about personal finance and investing in the United States? Maybe some applications or Google spreadsheet. What would you recommend? Or maybe you can share your personal story, what you've been using for this.
Yeah. So I wrote a book, Wealth is a Mindset. That book addresses the mental health, but it also has very practical chapters on debt, raising your income, negotiations, which is really important, and investing, side hustling, everything that I myself experienced, I've also put into the book. Then I think the second most helpful resource is actually following different what we call finfluencers, people who are influencers and creators in social media space that talk primarily about personal finance. And I would say follow at least 10, because many different influencers come from different angles and they'll address different types um of of questions and issues in personal finance. And I just like just digesting, a lot of information. And there's also, I think, some books that are, I think, basic, like good personal finance books. And the one that I like the most, it's a little outdated because actually one of the authors is already passed, but it's called The Millionaire Next Door. So they wrote this a long time ago, but many of the principles in this book still remains the same, which is it follows actually very or ordinary Americans and shows how them leading a very quiet lifestyle focused on lowering their costs and investing actually leads them to have enough money for their old age and retirement. And I like the book because it is very fact-based and it's very encouraging, I think, for the average person to read. And in my journey, and I guess this also shows how things were different 20 years ago, I did a combination of books and blogs. And also because of the nature of my work, I used to work in management consulting primarily for private equity companies who are professional investors. I was just exposed to a lot of investing language and investing news. I'll be reading all kinds of news, but also I learned to navigate even more difficult databases like reading SEC filings, like the public statements that the companies have to put out. So I would say that that's a little bit higher level than I expect most people to do. But I think just the more time that you put against it, like just dedicating an hour a week to reading and asking questions and learning can take you very, very far.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing advice. And we know that where there is our focus, this is start developing. If we have a focus at least 1 hour per week to think about financial well-being, so you already start self-programming your brain about finance, what I can do, what is just to check your savings account. This is already like how you start uh, have these financial grammatical foundations for you personally for yourself. Thank you so much. I definitely would like to read the book, and I read your book right after we met in San Francisco Golden Gate Club, and I was being so um, I felt so great after reading this book because I got the hope after your book. Wealth is a mindset. Guys, we will share all the links. Don't be scared. We will share all the links. And after reading this book, I felt, yes, I can. Immigrant and wealth, we can do this. We can marry to these words. And but from your perspective, that's what's the one key message from your book you hope all immigrants can walk away with.
Yes. And it also depends on whether you immigrated by yourself or whether you immigrated with your parents, because I think this is a little bit less applicable to people who immigrate by themselves. If you immigrate with your parents took on most of the risk of immigrating and leaving behind everything and also the financial risk. And they're much more likely to tell you, their child, oh, don't take risks. Do the safe thing. Don't do what we did. We gave up everything, but you shouldn't have to. And in my book, I explain how children of immigrants often avoid risk later on in life. Maybe you take the safe career, even though it's not the best fit for your skill set. Or maybe you avoid investing because you think it's too scary for you and, owning gold or real estate makes more sense. And real estate isn't bad, but I have found that many immigrants avoid the stock market because it feels really scary. And the core message that I want to convey to immigrants is there is no reward without risk. And the more risk you're willing to take, the more chances that you put yourself out there for something amazing to happen to you. But I understand it's also scary because it can go wrong. So I say take small risks right now, like little things that make you feel like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Actually be okay with the discomfort of something that feels uncomfortable. But you don't have to take the biggest risk in the world. Like you don't have to, bet, I don't know, $10,000 on your first try. You don't have to do that. Just start with little things. Get used to the discomfort of risk and then go for bigger and bigger and bigger risk taking as appropriate to your goals. And eventually, I truly believe the people that just try and try and try again eventually will get to where they need to go.
Wow, it's such a great advice, and it's sounds simple, but it's not easy to do because if you have like frugality mindset, focusing on frugality, it's totally opposite of taking the risk. Totally opposite because you're saving each single cent, and how
Yes.
possible to spend $400 to buy two Google stocks on investment market. So, and it's absolutely different. You always have to grow and combine two different approaches. Wow, it's not easy.
No, that discomfort, if you feel uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes the discomfort is a signal that you're doing something right.
Yeah, out of comfort zone, it's uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And Sean, thank you so much for being with us here today. And your story and the insights are not only practical, but truly encouraging and very honest. And you remind us that building wealth is possible, even joyful, and when we have the right mindset and tools. So, to everyone watching, thank you for joining us today. If this conversation resonates with you, feel free to share it with others who might benefit. And all the links mentioned, including Shang's book and helpful resources, are listed right below this video. Take care, and we will see you at the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.